Marvel Snap is the brand new game from the developers who brought us Hearthstone. But Hearthstone launched 8 years ago, back in 2014, and the video game landscape has changed a lot since then. Mobile gaming has become this dominant force, this financial gaming powerhouse. More on that later. So what have the devs at Second Dinner learned since 2014? And what are they going to do to try to make Marvel Snap match up with the powerhouse digital card game where others have failed? First, let's talk about how the games look and feel. Released back in 2014, Hearthstone is a masterclass of in-game UI and fit-for-purpose graphics. There's nothing too complicated going on here, but everything feels polished, from the clickable objects around the outside of the board to the way that the cards shimmer and glide across the screen with your mouse. Cards ditch their border as they land on the board from your hand and have more of an oval shape on screen. Bigger cards collide with a crash as they attack each other. The game knew immediately to take advantage of the fact that it's a digital-only card game, and therefore rectangular cards don't always have to be rectangular. If a player wanted to see what a card does, they could just mouse over it to see the full version. All of the menus are slick, responsive, and full of character, something which a lot of modern games just can't get right these days. And a lot of these features haven't been changed at all since 8 years ago. Main screen still looks almost identical to how it did back then, and it looks good by today's standards. By 2014 standards, Hearthstone was a home run. Hearthstone was later ported to mobile devices, and it maintained a similar look. Granted, there were some awkward features when playing on your phone, like you'd have to tap on your hand to magnify it, and then you could play cards, and then you'd have to tap on the board again to unmagnify your hand to get to your hero power. But all in all, it worked, and it worked well. I've spent many train journeys and flights with extortionate Wi-Fi playing Hearthstone games, and I've always had a blast. It's been a good experience. Now let's compare it to Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap is a mobile-first title, with supposedly a PC port on the way very soon. As a mobile-first title, it certainly doesn't have quite the same look of polish as Hearthstone does, but it's not really fair to compare a game that can be played on a gaming PC in 4K with a game built for vertical phone screens. Marvel Snap does have a lot of flair in other ways though, which does make the experience feel quite premium.
Animated frame.
Taking the Hearthstone logic of not always showing the card text on screen, Marvel Snap goes one step further and removes the card text from the cards altogether, giving them all full art versions, the only text being the card's name. If a player wants to see what a card does, they can tap on the card where the text will then appear underneath the card, never obstructing any of the gorgeous artwork. Speaking of artwork, Hearthstone's cards obviously look pretty great, with a rich history of World of Warcraft's characters to draw from. But Marvel Snap has, well, Marvel, one of the biggest IPs in the world and one known for its artwork. The cards do not disappoint. Each card comes with several different versions or variants, and as you upgrade the cards, they get cooler, going from being regular cards to sticking out of the border, to having a 3D effect that you can adjust with your phone's gyroscope, etc, etc. It's very cool. Many of the cards also have cool animations when you drag them onto the board, whether it's Cyclops with his laser eyes, or Ant-Man shrinking or growing, depending on what mood he's in, I guess. Cards taunt each other as they get placed onto the board. There's loads of different voice lines. The locations sometimes have voice lines as well, and I think these are still being added bit by bit.
I am Ego, and this is my domain.
I'd say that the art and sound design definitely match Hearthstone's incredibly high bar, and they're potentially able to exceed Hearthstone's high bar if they keep adding new things to it. Marvel Snap is in its very early stages right now. I'm excited to see where they're going with the design. But what about the gameplay, the most important part? Hearthstone follows a very similar formula to Magic the Gathering. You take turns building up mana crystals each turn, allowing you to play bigger and bigger cards, while you whittle away your opponent's health. A game of Hearthstone varies in length depending on what's popular in the meta, but games tend to last anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes. Of course, as a former Hearthstone commentator, I have deep memories of games lasting 2 hours, which I'll never be able to forget. But yeah, 5 to 30 minutes on average. Marvel Snap, again, is a mobile-first title. It accounts for shorter attention spans, so there's no taking turns. Both players make their move at the same time, and as soon as they've locked in their turn, the game shows both players what the other has just done, at the same time. A game only lasts 6 turns, so on average about 3 minutes. That's a lot shorter than a game of Hearthstone. The winner is the player who is able to play more power at 2 of the 3 locations on screen. As a result, Marvel Snap's gameplay is more simple, but still has a lot of depth. On one hand, it may seem like there's very limited counterplay in Marvel Snap compared to Hearthstone. In Hearthstone, you're battling minions and trading back and forth, whereas in Marvel Snap, you're just playing cards on your own side of the board and sort of trying to guess what your opponent's going to do. But that's where the depth and the counterplay comes in. It's out-predicting your opponent, out-predicting where they're going to be playing their things, and also utilizing the titular snap mechanic, which I haven't even gotten into yet, but the snap mechanic changes everything. In a game of Marvel Snap, you can essentially announce to your opponent, I think I'm going to win, I like to raise the stakes. And then your opponent gets the chance to back out with the previous stakes or play on for the higher stakes. It's a cool feature, and one that you need to master if you're going to rank up in Marvel Snap. Hearthstone's whole premise at launch was that it's deceptively simple and insanely fun, and that's something that it was initially. But as time has gone on and more cards have been added to Hearthstone's ever-growing card pool, of course they've added some more quirky things and the game has gotten more complicated. Marvel Snap now feels like what Hearthstone was back then. It's new, it's simple, it's fresh, and it's fun, but with a lot of depth. Hearthstone has gotten harder to keep up with over the years if you're a casual player coming back because of how many different cards there are to learn. But speaking of keeping up with, let's talk about one of the more controversial parts of Marvel Snap. Monetization, the microtransactions. I did talk earlier about how mobile games are a dominant force when it comes to money, and Marvel Snap is no exception. Mobile games are usually free and come with an incredible amount of microtransactions, allowing you to get access to things in this game, namely cards, faster. It is common practice in mobile games to limit how much stuff you can earn each day to keep you coming back, while of course allowing you to pay to get your hands on the time-gated stuff early. Marvel Snap's progression system is mobile gaming in a nutshell. You earn credits by completing daily challenges, and these credits allow you to upgrade your cards. Visually upgraded only, thankfully. No gameplay advantages by spending money, at least in this area. Upgrading your cards increases your collection level, which allows you to unlock more cards. The more you play, the slower the process gets, and the more expensive skipping to the next card is. The system gets pretty controversial when players get to a more late stage part of the game. When they get to the cards available in Pool 3, a whole bunch of new cards open up to them, but players have no way whatsoever of deciding what order they're going to obtain these cards. It's just down to luck. I, on average, get a card every 2 to 3 days now, and it could be one I'm really excited about, or it could be one I have no interest whatsoever, in which case I'll be pretty disappointed. Some players get really unlucky and miss the key cards entirely that make up all of the current meta decks, and if you don't find any of those key cards, historically I'm talking about Ghost Rider, Killmonger, etc., if players miss those cards, they just not going to have a very good time. They're not going to make any competitive decks. Though I will say I personally don't mind the monthly battle passes. Every month you have to pay around the equivalent of I think £8 to obtain a battle pass with the month's exclusive card. That's fine, the game was free and there's no packs, like I don't begrudge spending that. What I am against is the Nexus events. Stop right there past me. Okay, so at the time of filming this, Nexus events were a huge problem in the community and caused a lot of discourse. But since then, Second Dinner have refunded all gold that was spent on the Nexus events and promised that they're not coming back. The future of gaining new cards in Marvel Snap is looking much brighter. So, yeah, I'm going to skip this bit and back to the video. Hearthstone is a conventional card game. You buy packs and that's about it. I guess what I want to say is that I believe that Marvel Snap is easier to play as a free-to-play game. You get cards slowly over time, and the rate of progression feels good. I've never once felt, oh, I need more cards to have fun. It's always been a good experience, and it's always exciting for me when I do unlock a new card. You just have to have patience, and everything will be unlocked eventually. Hearthstone, on the other hand, is not quite so easy to play as a free-to-play thing. If you want to be competitive, you really want to get all the cards once the expansion comes out, because that's what all of the other competitive players are doing. But then again, with Hearthstone, if you want to buy everything, it's only going to cost you really a couple $100 every few months whenever a new expansion comes out. In Marvel Snap, if you wanted to get everything immediately, I think you're probably looking at spending thousands. Which again, I mean, personally, I've found the process of unlocking stuff quite fun. Like, the game's quite good at only matching you against players who have similar collection sizes to you anyway. So I really kind of enjoyed the progression in Marvel Snap. I haven't felt the need to spend anything other than the Battle Pass. And we don't know what the future is going to look like in terms of how often new cards are going to come out or what the process is going to be to obtain those cards. Finally, let's talk about the other features in Hearthstone, which I'd be remiss to ignore. Hearthstone's constructed gameplay has gotten a little stale for many players over the years, but Hearthstone is more than just constructed. It launched with Arena mode back in 2014, and there have also been solo adventures, tavern brawls, duels, mercenaries mode, and my personal favorite game mode, which I'm still playing almost every day, Hearthstone Battlegrounds. There are many options available in Hearthstone and many systems in place to keep people coming back. It's impossible to say what the team at Second Dinner will be adding to the game this early on. However, they have alluded to other game modes, including a special competitive mode.
Working on a brand new competitive mode. It's called I can't say why can't I say
which is really exciting because all of these years later, Hearthstone still has failed to implement a tournament mode or a competitive mode of that degree. Maybe Marvel Snap will have them beat there right out of the gate. So what do you think of Marvel Snap? Are you planning on playing it? Do you think it could rise and eventually go toe-to-toe with Hearthstone? Will it be the biggest mobile gaming card game? Let me know in the comments below and stay tuned for more Marvel Snap.